What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune into the channel and check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to talk about a comment that Victor Wembanyama made after their first game loss. Who they lose to just now? They just lost the first game to the Minnesota Timberwolves, right? And he pointed out how hard it is to be a two-way basketball player and then have enough gas at the end of the tank to help your team win, right? And I thought it was important because Victor Wembanyama and a lot of other basketball players are finding out that like great two-way basketball players don't come along very often. And it's hard to be a two-way basketball player and know how to pace yourself, whereas though you're going to have enough energy at the end of the game or throughout the game to help your team win. And so this, I think, is a learning process. Like it's just not about just sprinting up and down the court. It just takes a lot to be, and you don't have a lot of guys who throughout basketball history who has done that, right? And so the guy Scat on Scat Attack, he addressed this, and I want to comment on some of what he said about this because he has always been pushing this narrative that the Joker is one of the greatest basketball players to have ever played and one of the greatest basketball players in the game today, right? And so I want to use even his own words to kind of challenge what he has said about the Joker, right? But before I get into that, I also want to tell people about my new sports trivia show that I'm having. I'm looking for some contestants to come on. You get $50 just for being a contestant. Then you had an opportunity to win more cash and more prizes if you can beat me in a game of tic-tac-toe. So you have to answer the trivia questions. You see this tic-tac-toe board behind me. You got to get 3 X's in a row. A correct answer gets you an X or get you an O. And that's it. It's just that easy. So if you got confidence in your sports knowledge and you know basketball, you know baseball, you know football, you know boxing, sports in general, man, and you think that you can come on here and you can win yourself some money, give me a call. Let me see. Call this number right here that just came up on the screen, 410-493-6938. Leave a message. Say, Mike, I'm confident in my sports knowledge. I want to come on the show and challenge you to a game of tic-tac-toe. And we can just take it from there. I'll set you up and we'll have this, we'll test your knowledge. So now with that being said, man, I want to get back to what Scab had to say and also what Victor said about how tough it is to be a two-way basketball player.
Well, Victor Wembanyama found out the hard way last night in his Game 1 loss to the Minnesota Timberwolves that this two-way game is hard, dog. The laughable aspect, though, of it all is the rampant expectations that Nikola Jokic is a crippling force for his defense, getting his legacy trashed throughout the internet and mass media after one bad playoff series, his first bad series in an 11-year career, all because he was, quote, terrible on defense. But this premise that there are actually two-way players.
See, and all right, so right there, let me stop there. He said Victor Wembanyama, the Joker is getting crushed because of one bad series, right? And that's not it. Most basketball players have a bad series or a bad showing, at one point in time in their career in the playoffs. But after the bar has been raised, after we've seen Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, we've seen Hakeem Olajuwon, we've seen Shaq, we've seen Tim Duncan, don't lower the bar in order to prop up a guy who don't play both ways like those are guys who I just mentioned. Like all those guys played defense and offense at a high level throughout their career or at different points in their career. The bar has already been set. And so you can't do that. And I'm glad that the kid, Victor Wembanyama, is even attempting to be a two-way basketball player because like Scap just said, it's hard. It's very hard. And not a lot of basketball players have had success being two-way players. Like you have guys who just play defense, who who are defensive specialists, right? And you can name a lot of guys who were just, their focus was just defense. And you can name guys who their focus was just offense. But you can only name a few guys who just outstanding at both ends of the court.
Left today is farcical. Last night, following the game, Victor Wembanyama admitted that he was tired and that he spent too much time focusing on one side of the floor.
So, had to use my energy. Obviously used a lot of it on one side of the court. And on the other side, I used too much. Offensively, I used too much energy in things that didn't really help our team. So that's on me.
The result.
All right. And so that right there, I think, though, is a learning experience for Victor Wembanyama and the coaches on his team, right? Number one, you don't, it do take a lot of energy to play defense, and then you want to have something that comes down to, on the offense, right? And it was a good strategy for the Timberwolves just to make this guy, Victor Wembanyama, make him work, right? And I think that the Spurs, though, because they will find a way to make Victor more, because he's 7'5", right? And he do want to play defense. So he's 7'5". He's going to put that effort out there. They'll find a way to funnel the players to him, whereas though he won't have to chase all over the court. Like you never seen Shaq, Tim Duncan, Hakeem, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar just chasing the offensive guys all over the court, coming from the weak side. They just funnel everything to him and just let him do his thing. He had to work real hard at that defensive end, and I thought it was a great strategy for the Timberwolves. He blocked a lot of shots, but he worked hard as hell on there. And then when he came down the other end, he was almost like he was out of gas. But they'll correct that. He'll still be a great two-way player because that's what he want to do. He'll learn how to pace himself at both ends. They're not going to have him playing the toughest guy on the defensive, at the defensive end, so they're going to work that out.
For the first ever unanimous Defensive Player of the Year was, yes, a historic defensive performance where he blocked an NBA record 12 shots. But he was also just 5 of 17 on the other end and scored only 11 points. And yes, the major takeaway for me is that this two-way game is hard, dog. That's why, for me and to me, my best 5 players in NBA history are elite two-way players. In fact, the best of the best. In my opinion, the best two-way players of all time. That being Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Tim Duncan, and Hakeem Olajuwon. Offensive engines, elite offensive engines. In Kobe and Jordan's case, 2 of the greatest scorers in NBA history. In Kareem's case, the second leading scorer overall in NBA history. And yet these guys were perennially elite defenders, near league best at their position for over a decade plus.
Right. And so the Joker don't fit into that category with Kobe, Mike, Tim Duncan, Hakeem Olajuwon, or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He just don't fit in that class, right? So don't lower the bar in order to put the Joker in there. The Joker has been in the league for 11 years, and he has not touched any of those guys as far as on the defensive end, right? So don't lower the bar to put the Joker in the class with those guys. But at the same time, I think that this guy, Victor Wembanyama, he has something to shoot for. And he found out, that it's hard work. It's hard to be a two-way basketball player, in this league. Now, will he be able to sustain that type of effort that all those guys put in for like the long run? That's what the bar is. That's what it is. Like those Tim Duncan, I don't know how many years Tim Duncan played. He might have played almost 20 years. Michael Jordan played for like about 15. Kobe Bryant played for almost 20. But like Scat said, these guys, all those guys had at least a 10-year run. Whereas though Kobe, Mike, all those guys, they played for 10 years and was dominant at both ends. You can't be dominant at one end of the court and then expect to be in the same class with Kareem and Tim Duncan. It don't work like that. It don't work like that. So this is right here is something for this guy Victor Wembanyama to shoot for. If he shoot for, if he shoot for what the Joker has done, then he'll fall short of what Kareem, Hakeem, Michael, Kobe, and Tim Duncan has done over their career. He gonna fall short because those guys have set the bar and raised the bar. And that's that's what I got to say about that. I think that this guy Victor Wembanyama wants to be a two-way basketball player because he knows that that's what it takes to be one of the greats in the league. One of the greats, not only in the league, but like in the history of the league. So, he's going to learn how to pace himself. He had all those blocks against Minnesota, in game 1, and Minnesota, Minnesota still wind up winning the game. And so they'll go back to the drawing board, the coaches and Wemby, they'll go back to the drawing board and they'll have a plan. I think the Spurs are going to win this. I thought it was a good strategy though, man, just to wear him out at one end and render him ineffective at the other end. I don't know if they're going to be able to get away with that, anymore this series, but we'll see, man. So that's my take on it, man. I just thought that the bar is just so high to be, a great basketball player, and you can't do it just at one end and think that you're going to be in the class with those guys who do it at both ends. I think Victor Wembanyama is on his way to being a great basketball player, but it was a hard lesson learned that it's hard work, man, doing it at both ends. So that's my take on it. Don't forget to call and leave a message, man, if you're interested in being a contestant on this sports trivia show. You want to display your sports knowledge and earn some extra money, at the same time. Just give me a call at 410-493-6938. Leave a message, and I'm gonna set you up, for a time to come on the show and test your knowledge. So that's it. I'll talk to you guys next program. Peace.